like I said, a fake or a fumbled snap or whatever, why he ended up running with the ball. But, you know,
That's football.
if they're playing hard, you play hard.
That's football. All right, coming up in segment number 2, we will discuss a lot of the new coaches coming in, what that means for the team. Stay tuned. And welcome back to segment number 2 of This Week at the Park. Remember, Redskins fans, grab your friends and come out to the locker room at FedEx Field on Saturday, February 1st to donate life-saving blood with Inova Blood Donor Services. Hang out with Redskins cheerleaders and Redskins wide receiver Joshua Morgan while you're there. For more information and to sign up for your slot, visit inova.org/bloodsaves.
Really quick, Josh Morgan is a cool guy. He was like backstage with Jay-Z.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
He's the man.
That's status right there.
He's the man around
cred,
here.
Some real street cred there.
You want to hang out with Josh Morgan. Trust me.
You'll be hanging out with Jay-Z.
I got to get this cleared away on the air. Rich,
Yeah.
why don't you like electric football?
I never understood. Maybe I wasn't doing it right. Maybe it just never had any.
Oh, you were playing to
made
win.
any sense to
So I
me.
had an uncle. One of my uncles used to paint all of his teams like they were in boxes, of course. He had the Bengals, the 49ers. He had away jerseys, home jerseys, and then it was all about the pieces. You had to rub the pieces on the carpet right to make them do what you want them to do.
See.
So Barry Sanders, I had a special little bottom for Barry Sanders, and he'd go fast. And I always send him on the sweep, and I have his bottom rub just right. He'd always go this fashion. Boom. First down.
See, when I did it, it looked like a second grade soccer game. You know, it was just
Right.
everybody kind
Everyone
of
follows the ball.
I love
grinding
electric
randomly
football.
around. So
You want to see the Pro Bowl? Go play a game of electric
there you
football.
go.
That's what it is.
Sorry.
All good. All good. In other important news,
Yeah.
after a disappointing season on defense, Redskins are bringing back Jim Haslett, Jacob Burney, and Raheem Morris on the defensive side of the ball. What is that? How do you interpret that as a vote of confidence? As you get to bring in your guys, do your thing. What is that, Rich?
Yeah, well, I think it's more. A lot of it's the second thing. Where Jim Haslett didn't get to pick his assistants as a defensive coordinator usually does. Mike Shanahan brought in Bob Slowick, particularly to do to coach the linebackers. Now Jacob Burney is a longtime Shanahan guy. He's the only one really left on the staff who goes back with him. But I think they want to give him a chance with an upgrade in talent in some ways. Give him some better players without the salary cap penalty. They got about $29 million to work with. Got 8 free agents among the starters, and some more as depth. It's a good chance if you want to go in there and just kind of reshape the whole thing, and see what he can do.
Chris, fans have really set their opinion on Jim Haslett, but as a player, take us inside the meeting room with him. And what kind of a coach is he? Is he a teacher, a motivator? What's his style?
He's a former player. He's a former player. Easy to get along with. Easy to get his point across without a lot of side games going on. But I think to piggyback off what you said, it just means that the rumors must have been true as far as Jim having his hands tied somewhat behind his back, not only on his staff, but with types of play calling and with defensive agenda.
Right.
Each game is different, and if you have been given a certain agenda to stop the run, so to speak, no matter what, when it takes you away from forming a legitimate game plan. So, Jay Gruden must agree or somebody knows something to give him another chance. We know he's played. We know he has a good relationship with the players. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this year on defense.
Now, the last glaring hole in the coaching staff at this point is running backs, which they've still not formally announced, even if they have identified somebody at that position.
Clinton Portis.
Clinton Portis? Well, there you go. I think he's busy.
Please.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
And weekly press conferences for him if you
Yeah,
can.
Exactly. And maybe we can pull out the suits again.
There you go.
The outfits. But
Well, you inherited
They're still in the closet here somewhere.
Oh,
I guess.
I'm sure they are. Somewhere downstairs in the basement of Redskins Park. There's all the outfits that you'll need. Now, one of the positions that isn't going to be filled is the quarterbacks coach, which Sean McVay seems to be the guy who is going to move over and take over. He was the tight ends coach. Now he's the offensive coordinator. Is not going to be calling plays, but is going to be working with Robert, with Kirk. Is that a good fit? And does he have the credentials to warrant that role?
No, I think if you got the credentials to be an offensive coordinator, you have the credentials to be a
Well, he's the youngest
quarterback
ever.
coach. Yeah.
But again, it's a dual job. Him along with head coach Jay Gruden, I'm sure is going to be very hands-on with the quarterbacks and the offense. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have Jay Gruden, ex-quarterback, certainly is going to be very involved in it. Then you have Sean McVay, offensive coordinator. Do you really need a third voice?
Right.
For for a position that's going to have two to three guys. Robert obviously being the most important. Kirk, if he's still around, he could well get traded. But whoever it is,
Michigan
I think
guy.
for 2 or 3 guys, there you go. If you really need 3 voices going at those guys, so I think that's a good idea. Is kind of take out that one layer. Probably in a couple of years they'll want to get one as Sean McVay's responsibilities step up.
Now, at that quarterback position, I mean, there are certainly some decisions to be made. Rex Grossman is a free agent again. He was certainly a Shanahan guy. Do you bring him back? Do you need him anymore? And what do you do with Kirk Cousins?
I think, with Cousins, I think this is just my opinion. If somebody offers you a second-round pick for him, you don't hang up the phone. You make that deal right now. If it's less than that, you maybe think about it. And if it's much less than that, you keep him. You do have 2 years left on his contract. That makes him a little bit more valuable to a team trading for, because they know they've got him for 2 years at that low salary before he becomes a free agent. So this is a prime year to trade him. And then if you do that, I think you have to go out and get a veteran quarterback.
I was just about to say, how important is it to have 2 quarterbacks though?
I mean, you have to.
So, I mean, is Rex going to be the veteran guy? In my eyes, being a defense guy, he was always a Kyle Shanahan guy. He came from the Texans, and if everything just went wrong, we always have Rex who understands the offense. I don't know if Coach Jay Gruden will bring in a guy similar to fulfill that role, and if he's going to be able to do the job to be able to afford to get rid of a Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, well, right. You do have to have that plan B. Unfortunately, you do have free agency prior to when you would make a trade for Kirk Cousins for the draft. You got almost 2 months to work with. The Bears got in Josh McCown at the same cap number as Rex Grossman was. That discounted veteran minimum. He was certainly stepped in there and got some things done. Then we have some backup quarterbacks that didn't do so. Matt Flynn, when he was with the Raiders. Now the Packers incarnation was a little bit different, but cost doesn't really matter that much. You need to get a guy in there. It's gonna cost you probably anywhere from $1 million to the Cowboys are paying Norton like $4.3 million. I think his cap number this year. So anywhere in that range you wanna go, you think you can afford. So. I think if you do, right, you have to get that.
Yeah, if you're going to do all that,
of.
you could just keep Kirk.
You could, and save the money, but, then does your possible draft pick, you don't have first-round draft choice also. That's the other thing you have to look at. If you can have 2 seconds, okay.
It does make that a little bit easier. It also allows you to move back in if there's something at the end of the first day.
It's the option.
Right. It does. Yeah, it gives you more options, no question.
Now, still a lot to be played out, but do you expect, because they retain Chris Forrester, that there will be a zone blocking. Is that where this team is headed, at least in year one, or will changes be
cannot
made?
get rid of the zone blocking scheme that the Redskins are doing so well. I mean, they run it so many different type of ways. We talked about electric football. Some teams, I say, have a Tecmo Bowl running game, meaning you got 4 running plays. This zone blocking scheme, it looks the same a lot, but it's different ways of doing it. Sometimes they're stretching the field all the way to the sideline. Other times they're getting more upfield, more physical. They have a downhill complement to it, and it's just an all-out run scheme. I expect to see at least somewhat of the running game staying the same.
Well, it was power blocking in Cincinnati. He didn't have an offensive lineman that weighed under 310. Here, Trent Williams is the only one that's over 310. So,
and he's the fastest.
Yes, yeah. Trent obviously could fit in
Trent
any
will
speed.
be here regardless.
The other 4 guys, and the backups, Rebus and Compton and Geddes, we'll have to see where they can fit.
We'll see how it all plays out. Coming up in segment number 3, we're going to be talking about the Super Bowl. Stay tuned. And segment number 3 of This Week at the Park. Remember, Redskins fans, check out the Redskins Desk Site app, which turns your PC into a Redskins DVR, automatically delivering high-definition videos directly to your computer. You will receive game highlights, interviews with players, coaches, full-length TV shows such as this one, and much more. Download it by going to redskins.com/desk site. Before we get into the Super Bowl, just want to tell everyone that we will be having a special on-location edition of This Week at the Park next week. So it will be This Week at the Park. We'll be talking about everything at the park, but we will be doing it from Radio Row at the Super Bowl. So, with that being said, the matchup has been decided. Seattle Seahawks knock off the kind of the hot, the sexy pick in terms of the San Francisco 49ers. And then you have the Denver Broncos, who really didn't really struggle all that much against the Patriots. That was a pretty one-sided game, despite what the final score may show.
Redemption.
Right, exactly. So you've got a ton of storylines going into this game, none bigger than Peyton Manning, and he might get to do it in the stadium that his brother currently calls home, just as his brother once did in the stadium that he once called home.
Wow.
There's great Manning storylines everywhere here. So, what do you make of that one, certainly to kick things off? What do you think of Peyton Manning, his legacy? What does this game mean to him?
Well, I don't think he has to win it to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. To me, counting rings for a quarterback is simplistic. Tell me Brad Johnson is a better quarterback than Dan Marino, and that should end the discussion right there. Because Brad Johnson has one, Marino has none. So
yes, but Peyton also has the same number of rings as Trent Dilfer right now. So there is something to be said for that, especially when you consider his playoff record right now is 11-11, and that's only because he went 2-0 this year. It was 9-11 coming into the season.
Had Peyton Manning played with Trent Dilfer's defense, he would have won 10 Super Bowls in a row.
If Trent Dilfer had played with Peyton Manning's receivers, he would have won.
When you win all the time like Peyton Manning did, you don't get a first-round first pick every year either. They're constantly in the playoffs, constantly adjusting. Which brings me to my next point of this Super Bowl. You have the biggest game of cat and mouse to ever be played versus execution and adjustments. If the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, offensively, you're going to see the NFL change as we know it.
Okay, so you're focusing more on the Seahawks offense, especially.
Well,
is it the power running? Is it?
Well, they simply read the box. They read the box. It's a team that's very capable of running the ball with or without a tight end. So they just read the box. They count. They'll run the ball. They have a great running game, great running backs. They're either going to run it or they're going to play action. Every now and then they'll do the drop back and let Russell Wilson try to make a big play. But it's not what you see when you look at the Broncos. You see execution. You see adjustments. Okay, run that slant. I'm going to put it on your back shoulder this time. You know, I'm going to lead you to it. And you see how the defense adjusts, and then you see Peyton Manning adjust again. Everybody's talking about Omaha. You know, what does it mean? It's like the Smurfs saying Smurfity Smurf, you know. You don't know what it means. It can mean so many different things, or it can mean nothing. So that's football as I know it. That's football as we've all used to seeing it. The way Peyton Manning can adjust and the way he can execute, and his team can make those adjustments that quick. Now, we see the Seahawks win, it's going to be like, wow. And obviously it's versus a Broncos defense. You can't make this huge assessment on how they play, but they obviously are in the Super Bowl. So they've been beating a lot of teams, and it's gonna change the game.
So is that a simpler, just to put one word, a simpler game that the Seahawks are playing on offense? It's easier,
a lot more simple.
So it's more can be duplicated more in other places
with the
as
right
opposed to if you don't have a Peyton Manning.
It is a concept, but Peyton Manning is he's like a tour bite.
Right.
You know, he has so many adjustments, and he's seen so many things, obviously playing the game so long.
Now, certainly with two offenses like that are built so vastly different, we've already seen a foot of snow dumped on the field at the Meadowlands. I'm not sure if you saw that picture, but it looked like the frozen tundra, and they are expected to get at least 2 more snowstorms before next Sunday.
It is in New York.
Right. This is the cold weather Super Bowl that everyone wanted. Well, here it is. How does that affect the game, and which of these teams does that favor?
Well, I think if it's actually snowing, during the game, I think that makes it a lot more random outcome. You never know who's going to slip, fall. It's like the one game it was in. For example, the Eagles were playing, but where they had to, plow out the yard markers so you could see them.
Right.
I'm gonna have to say the Seahawks. I mean, the running game. That's football 101. When it's snowing, it's hard to pass it. Now, I have seen Peyton Manning throw the ball around in severe weather, rain, and snow. But I think it just favors the team that can run the ball better.
But no Sean Moreno, Monte Ball. I mean, Broncos aren't helpless in the running game. They don't have
helpless.
The one guy.
You're right.
Who's
right.
the beast mode guy.
You're right. But when you have beast mode along with Russell Wilson in that scheme of things, and they have to have a little lead too, because if you're playing comeback football against Peyton Manning, now you're gonna have to throw it.
I think what could hurt the Broncos more than snow, perhaps, is wind. Because again, I do agree that the Broncos have the better ground game, but passing.
Said the Broncos?
Excuse me, I meant the Seahawks have the better ground game, but get the ball in the wind. They can deal with snow. You can deal with rain. That's what all quarterbacks do. It's the wind that puts that
tight
element.
Spiral.
Yeah.
Tight spiral, cut right through the wind.
Well, Peyton does not have that strong an arm anymore. After a few neck surgeries later, he's getting by on placement and, like I said, front shoulder.
But he does have
accuracy.
Wes Welker to nickel and dime you, and that in itself is a running game.
Yeah,
to me.
That's true. Yeah.
And then now when you get that defense to have to come up so far, that arm looks a lot stronger. So it's ways. I mean, that's what I mean about the tour bike. It's ways to win.
Yeah, he's played in plenty of wind. He's playing in wind games when Russell Wilson was in grade school, probably. So
right.
Yeah, I think all those young guys grew up idolizing.
And if you think about it, Russ Wilson always goes for the big plays a lot with his receivers, and the wind could affect those big long balls.
That's true. Yeah, he's not a dink and dunk kind of quarterback at all.
No, he certainly doesn't have the weapons that Peyton does either, though. Richard Sherman has really, he's been a story really since last year or the year before, whenever it was that he called out Darrelle Revis. And, kind of, if you hadn't been following the Seahawks, your initial reaction might be, who? Well, then obviously last year they make it to the playoffs. He has big performances in big games, and none bigger than in the NFC Championship game where he makes a defining play. But then it's what he does after the play. Just wanted to hear what your take was on that. Classy? Not really.
Well, two things. The only thing I was bothered by was him running up and taunting Michael Crabtree. I thought that was that was pretty low class. You know, give him the pat on the butt. You know, he got mic'd up. He was saying, "Hey, great game," sticking his hand out. But
right though.
Yeah, right. So
it's the way you say it.
But that
and the timing.
Well, it's after the game. If you're trying to get in the guy's head, that's fine. But the game is over.
Yeah.
So like you're still trying to get in his head. I mean, I'm
awful.
not feeling sorry for Crabtree, but I just think it's a little lame.
All right. Predictions. Who do you got?
I got the Broncos.
Okay.
Haven't really honed in on score, but I'll say Broncos, not too high scoring, maybe 24-17.
I got the Broncos scoring like 36.
Oh.
So like 18.
Ooh.
So a super snoozer.
See, I called the Seahawks at the beginning of the playoffs. I had them beating the Patriots. I'm going to stick with that, even against Peyton Manning. I'll take 24-21. Close, not too high scoring, kind of keep it.
You gotta be in the 30s when you're talking Broncos.
Not against the Legion of Boom. We will see, though. We will see. Yeah. Lots more to discuss. Remember to tune in next week. We will have more details on when that show will be from Radio Row. Thanks for joining us, guys. See you next week.